G'day, battlers, and today we're jumping in for another brand spanking new Silph Arena monthly meta. This time we're jumping in for the Nemesis Cup. Now, if you don't know what the Silph Arena is, I'm going to leave a video link up there that should give you a bit of a better idea about what is going on. But we're just going to jump straight into the Nemesis Cup here, which is going to be the monthly meta for the month of April. And you can already see on the graphic there is a lot going on over there, so we're just going to jump straight into it. So first off, we're going to select a fighter. So this is similar to Commander Cup, where we've got a list of 10 Pokemon, and you have to bring one of these 10 Pokemon as the first Pokemon in your team. So we've got fighting types, sort of fighting roles, as I suppose you could say. We've got Obstagoon, Gallade, Lucario, Poliwrath, Pangoro, Blaziken, Chestnut, and then we've got Quagsire, Flygon, and Excadrill as like ground type users that have been shoehorned into this fighter sort of role. We'll get into that a little bit later in the video though. And then second slot, again, we're given 10 options and you have to bring one of these onto your team. So these are the anti-fighters. So Jumpluff, Dedenne, Frostlass, Gourgeist, Noctowl, Gyarados, Charizard, Gengar, Galarian Rapidash, and Malwale. And then the rest of your team, the other 4 slots, are going to be comprised of bodyguards. So bodyguards have to be dual type Pokemon, so no single type Pokemon like Wailmer only has the water typing. But they also have to have at least one typing of Bug, Dark, Fire, Grass, Ice, Psychic, and Water, and not have their other typing be Fairy, Flying, Fighting, Ground, Ghost, or Normal. And also Megas and Escavalier are banned. So there's a lot going on, and at first when I first saw this graphic I was like, oh, so like all of the types must be on this graphic, but there are a few that are not on here. So for example, Electric. Electric isn't on here, so Lantern is allowed because it is a dual type, it has the water type, and Electric type has not been banned, but you can use Lantern even though Electric doesn't appear on this graphic, and that's also the case for Steel, Poison, Rock, and Dragon. But if it is just, you know, a Rock ground type, you can't use that because ground is banned and Rock hasn't been specifically allowed either. So this is sort of the meta we're looking at, and I think it's one of those sorts of metas that it's a little bit hard to wrap your head around until you sort of have a scroll through the PvPoke to get an idea about what is actually allowed, which unfortunately I'm not able to do because there isn't a dual typings option for custom metas on PvPoke, or at least I missed it. But the one other thing I do want to note is that those 20 Pokemon, I guess, in the first 2 slots are all otherwise banned from the bodyguard slot because of the other typing restrictions. So for example, Noctowl you can't use because normal and flying are banned in the bodyguard slots. Gengar, Ghost is banned in the bodyguard slots, etc, etc. They all have at least one of their typings being banned in that slot. So this is sort of a mix of the Fusion Cup and the Commander Cup all in one, but we'll just jump straight into the meta simplified, take a look at what we're looking at. But if you do want to subscribe for some more Nemesis Cup content coming out over the next month, you know, hey, I'd be very happy about it. But anyway, that's for the thumbnail. All right, so we're jumping in. We've got 3 groups on the screen here. This is a pretty simple thing because I feel like the Silph Arena meta team sort of built this meta in a way. They already had the sort of Nemesis groups built in with the fighters and the anti-fighters, literally named as such. So I've just sort of rounded out the graphic, well, I guess triangled out the graphic, cornered out the graphic with a little bit of an anti-fighter group. So in the top, we've got the fighting types. Now I have moved a couple of Silph picks into a different spot. So for example, Quagsire was listed as a fighter. I have moved it out of the fighters role on this graphic, but we'll get into that as we go. So we've got the fighters up the top. We've also thrown in Beedrill, Venomoth, and Fortress into that group. In the bottom right, we have the anti-fighters. So they're mostly sort of flying types. They've got like some Ghost in there. I've also thrown in a couple of extras. Bronzong. Actually, I think Bronzong's the only extra they've thrown in here, but there are some other ones like Jirachi that are also eligible because they're psychic typing. And then in the bottom left, we have the anti-fighters. And so these are the Pokemon that are mainly countering the anti-fighters, sort of the bodyguards. They're bodyguards to protect the fighters from the anti-fighters. Man, fighters fight flyers. Such close words. Fight or flight reaction, fight or flight, one of those words is going to come out of my mouth. But anyway, we've got sort of rock types, ice types, some steel types, some electric type. It's a little bit more neutral in this spot. But a lot of these Pokemon weren't specifically thrown out there by Silph. These are more of your bodyguard slots. There are a couple of them like Malwale. Malwale is actually in the anti-fighter slot on the graphic, which I suppose is because it has the fairy typing, but with it having the steel typing, it very much does not like pretty much any of those fighting types that are allowed, which is why it's been moved down there. And there's also some other ground like Quagsire. I sort of considered putting Excadrill in this slot as well, because Excadrill does have access to that sort of rock slide damage that is going to be really nice up against a lot of the sort of flying types, Frostlass with the ice type as well. But I did end up just fitting it in there because where it is, because it does have the ground typing, which is actually quite useful up against a lot of those anti-flyers. You can see there's things like Alolan Sandslash with the steel typing. I mean, Malwale's in there. Skuntank is weak to ground. Galvantula is weak to ground. But Baracle, is Baracle weak to ground? It's got the rock typing. Rock typing doesn't love ground. But you can see there is a lot of stuff that ground does hit, which is sort of why the ground types have found their way into that fighting slot a little bit. It's just that they aren't as hard countered by a lot of those anti-fighters. There are things like Frostlass, which still does super effective ice damage to ground type Pokemon, and then there's things like Flygon that also has the dragon typing, so it takes even more damage. So it's still sort of like a lot on this graphic. Like if you've sort of tried to pick this apart, there's going to be a lot of matchups that don't actually work out. For example, Gengar is technically in the group that is pointing an arrow towards Obstagoon. Obstagoon has Night Slash, which does a lot of damage to Gengar, and Gengar, unless it is packing Focus Blast, is not going to be doing a lot of damage to Obstagoon. So generally that matchup is going to go the other way, and there are a couple of other ones that are like that on this graphic as well. For example, I mean, we've got Zwilus there in the bottom left that has an arrow pointing towards Bronzong in the bottom right. Again, Dark type, super effective, not taking too much damage from the Bronzong, but you get the general idea. We've sort of got three sort of main roles that are carved out, which is exactly how Silph has actually built this meta, with the fighters, the anti-fighters, and the bodyguards. But I think this is going to be a pretty short video. Again, unfortunately, I don't have a PvP Poke ranking, so I've almost certainly missed some Pokemon that's going to be uber good in this meta. Let me know what it is in the description down below once you've given it a good look, and I'm excited to find out what the archetypes are, what the good Pokemon are. We'll just have to find that out together as the month goes on. But with all of that said, thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, especially that subscribe one. Thank you to my patrons and supporters over on Twitch as well for being very lovely people. Love them all. And then, there's not any other videos yet, but there might be soon. So if you're watching this like not instantly, then there's probably more content for this meta that you can watch. But subscribe also. Okay, bye.